Hello viewers, this is Arike Stitches once again. Today I'm going to be showing us how to cut this neckline that has um, a bow-like tie right in front there, and then the hip side is a little bit draped. Okay, I'll be showing us how to cut this. In my case, it won't be really long like this, but it's going to be a little bit above, I mean below the knee. Okay, with this long sleeve, just like this, exactly like these details. You can see we have that right here. We have the drapes on the hip side, from the waist to the hip side, and then that that detail on the neckline that looks like a bow. So let's get started. All right, so I did this off camera. I just went ahead to mark my half an inch on this side. You can see that's zipper allowance. I'm showing you how to cut the back part, the skirt back part of the dress. So I marked my 36 inches. That means 36 over 4. That's my waistline. The waistline I'm working with, that's 9. Okay, plus 2 inches. Okay, 1 inch for the dart allowance, and then the other 1 inch for seam allowance. So right there I went down by 9 inches. You can see I went down by 9 inches. Okay, from there I marked the hip line. The hip line I'm working with is 10.5 inches. Okay, you know there's half inch for zip allowance. That's 11 inches there. So I added 1 inch for my seam allowance. So that gave me what I'm having here. That's so when I got the whole thing gave me 12.1. Okay, my whole markings gave me 12.1. So on the lower part of the dress, all right, that means where my dress is going to end, I just deducted 1 inch from what I have here. So I made use of 11.1 inches. Okay, that's what you see there, right there. So now my half length in this case, the half length I'm working with is 15.5 inches. So I'll use half inch to join the upper part of this dress. Okay, so I have 15. So the whole length of the fabric is 41 inches. Okay, so I just added 1.5 inches to that, so that gave me 42.5 inches for hemming. So I'll cut this and then use this particular back part to cut the front part of the skirt. Okay, so right now I'm done cutting the back part of the skirt part. So I want to cut the front part. I just removed the half of an inch that I'm going to use for zipper allowance. I removed it on the upper part, and then I did the same on the lower part. Okay, so I did the same on the lower part. So what I'm going to do now is to cut exactly. So right now I'm done cutting the back part of the skirt part. So I want to cut the front part. I just removed the half of an inch that I'm going to use for zipper allowance. I removed it on the upper part, and then I did the same on the lower part. Okay, so I did the same on the lower part. So what I'm going to do now is to cut exactly. So what I'm going to do next is to chalk out my dart allowance here. So remember that I have half an inch for the zipper allowance. All right, so I'll just go ahead and mark 4 inches extra. So on both the front and the back part, you can see this is the back and this is the front part. So after we are done, I'll come back and show us how to cut the upper part. So right now I'm going to cut the upper part of the dress. For this type, to achieve this type of design, it's better you cut the neckline using a boat style. Okay, so right now I've just marked the half length. This measures 16.5 inches. The half length I'm working with is 15.5 inches. So I just added 1 inch extra allowance to that. That means half inch to join it on the upper part and half inch to join it to the lower part. Okay, so right now I just marked out my half an inch for zip allowance, and then I marked my 3 inches already for the neckline. Then I went ahead to mark 8 inches. Normally the back I'm working with is 15 inches. Okay, which is supposed to be 15 over 2, that's a 7.5, but I added a half an inch allowance for the sleeve joining. Okay, so that gives me 8 inches. Okay, so because our back is not straight, I went down by 1 inch to give me a perfect shoulder slant. So I'll just connect that 1 inch right there to the neckline I marked earlier. Okay, so the next thing is to mark the armhole. The armhole I'm working with is 8.5 inches. Okay, so the 8.5 inches are right there. I'm going to be marking my bust here. The bust area I'm working with, is 39 inches. Remember that we have half an inch for for the zipper allowance. Okay, so I just went ahead to mark 10.2 inches, you know, 8.5 plus half an inch. Okay, I mean 9.7 inches plus half an inch, that gives me 10.2. So I'll go ahead and mark 1 inch allowance for my joining, sorry, my seam allowance. Okay, so on the waistline right there, I'm going to be marking our waist. The waist I'm working with is 36 inches, so 36 over 4 is 9 inches, so I'll just mark that right there, and then I'll mark 1 inch for that allowance, and then another 1 inch for seam allowance. I'll connect all of them together, and then I'll connect also the armhole area just like this. You can see, you do not have if you do not have a ruler, you can go ahead and use your hand to cuff this just like this. So after marking it, I would come back and show us. Thing to do, I've joined the line and to meet this line already. The next thing to do is just to mark out that both neckline I've been talking about. I think I'll be using 4 inches here. So by the time I'm done joining the shoulder, I mean removing 1 inch, half inch for the shoulder to sleeve, and then half inch for the neckline, I'll be left with around 3 inches, which is just perfect. So I'm using 4 inches here for my design. So because it's the back already, I'll just go down by 1 inch, and then I would curve that here. So I'll be cutting it right there and come back to show us how to mark out the front part.